Hello, everybody, and welcome to the top 5 new comics for August 7th of 2024. I'm, as always, Chris, and we got a great slate of books this week. I'm really excited because a few of them I'm also going to be reviewing on my Substack, so you'll get to hear more about them later in the week after you listen to this. But we're going to go ahead and start with Absolute Power number 2. This is written by Mark Waid with art by Dan Mora and edited by Paul Kaminsky. I really enjoyed Absolute Powers number 1. I guess as a aside, if you don't know, if it's your first video watching on the Fortress Comics Network, I'm a huge fan of event comics. I think they're a blast. They're a ton of fun. Yeah, they can be terrible at times, but I am a sucker for them at all times. And what I've enjoyed with the last few, especially from DC, is that they're good. They're really good. And Absolute Power number 1 set up this really bleak corner that the DC universe is in. All the heroes have lost their powers. Amazos are taking over. We've got this trinity of robots working for Amanda Waller that just seem to be going insane. Just all around, it's a good time. And just the creative team here. I mean, Mark Waid's been on a tear at DC ever since he came back with World's Finest, his Shazam miniseries, and now this. Really excited for some of the things he has announced from San Diego Comic-Con. And Dan Mora, who I'm pretty sure has cloned himself so that he can draw so much, because not only does the dude put out so many comics in a world where you can sometimes get artists to do, if you get an artist to 11 issues, it's a big deal. This man put out, I believe, 16 last year and is on pace to do like 17 or 18 this year. It's unreal. And you would think he'd be rushing through them and they won't look so great. No, they're beautiful books too, or at least they have been so far. So just shout out to Dan Mora for being like this hugely prolific artist who's putting out amazing work. And yeah, I just believe Absolute Power, we know it's going somewhere with this new DC All-In and the Absolute Universe that's been announced from San Diego Comic-Con. But as a whole, just this book seems to be just another in a long line of really great DC event books and just overall event books in the past few years. So Absolute Power number 1 is definitely recommended. And you should see the cover right here because I forgot to click the button. But that's fine. We'll continue on with Public Domain number 7. This is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Chip Zdarsky and Rachael Stott and edited by Allison O'Toole. I've talked a little bit about Public Domain over the years. I absolutely love this book. If you are a nerd for comic books, this is a book you need to be reading. It's just a lovely story where the first story, we're going to spoil the first story arc here. That's the only way we can talk about what's possibly going to happen. The first story arc, we got this character called the Domain that was taken by this big company and turned into movie franchises. And tell me if any of this sounds familiar. And video games and just mined for all this money while the creators are left kind of just looking for work, happy to work for the company and on their own character, and maybe doing okay, but not getting filthy rich like some other people are off their property. Well, issue 5 ends with the original artist getting partial rights back and being able to create his own version of the Domain. And that's really often this story arc where they've created their own company. They're creating this book. We also have the book, The Domain, which is the book that the people in this book are creating. Chip actually made that a book and put it out there. It's interesting. And but now we've got the original writer who's working for this big company who wants to rebrand the Domain, bring him out and shut down the artist, make sure that he fails and all this. And they bring in this hotshot British writer who's known for some very popular things and fancies himself quite the artist. And that's the guy we got on this cover right now. It's just a great book. It's got a lot of great emotional moments. It takes on some heavy topics. All around, just an awesome series that I think that people that love comics should be reading. It's really just a great, great book. After that, I've got Space Ghost #4. This is written by David Pepose with art by Jonathan Liu, colors by Andrew Delhouse, lettered by Taylor Esposito, and edited by Joseph Rybant. So I've already read this issue, actually. I just wrote my review before I recorded this video, and it's so good. It's spoiled in not only this cover, but a lot of the covers. But Zorak's the big villain in this one. He comes back. He's deranged. He's the leader of this cult that wants to bring back this ancient god that's going to bring about the apocalypse. It's dark. It's heavy. It brings back this great classic character and reinvents him. All the character moments throughout this are great. You get to see Space Ghost for the first time really worried about what could happen on his adventure. I just think that David and Jonathan and the team here have done a wonderful job of bringing Space Ghost to the 21st century, to 2024, and giving him a modern look and really taking him seriously. Like, he's this goofy, campy cartoon character that Hanna-Barbera did, and I watched as a child. And now we've got this version of him that's just so wonderfully done all around. And I just cannot recommend this enough. But if you really want further thoughts and feelings about the issue itself, it's on my Substack, chriscomicscorner.substack.com, where you'll be able to read that in the near future after you're watching this. But Space Ghost is a wonderful series. If you like action comics, sci-fi comics, there's a hint of superhero stuff in there. It's just all around a wonderfully done comic book that doesn't take itself too seriously while at the same time taking everything super seriously. I love this book. I love what Dynamite's doing with the Hanna-Barbera products. I cannot wait to see what the future ones have. Johnny Quest is on my poll list, so we'll see what they have. And after that, we've got A Vicious Circle #3. This is written by Mattson Tomlin with art by Lee Bermejo. This book has been late for a long time. I remember picking up the first 2 issues of this book, and I loved it. Every inch of this book has been so wonderfully done. Mattson Tomlin, if those don't know, he was one of the co-writers of the Batman, Sparkly Batman, if you will. And he came to DC into this Batman series that I really enjoyed and thought it was well done. A Black Label series set outside of continuity, his own kind of version of the character. And then he teams up with Boom Studios for this book. And the first 2 issues, at least, have been fan-fucking-tastic. I just cannot say enough good things about this book. And I'm really excited because while it's been a while since we've had the book, it was always a 3-issue miniseries. We're going to get the big conclusion here. I'm just happy that they're finally coming out with it and ending it. Even with all the news that it got picked up for a movie deal and all this kind of stuff, it's just all around a great book that's about 2 guys that are connected in this time travel adventure where one dies, they get sucked into a time travel event, and then they have to kind of go through it again. And they're interlocked through this whole event. And we got to find out what connects them. Will they break the cycle? All these kinds of things that need to be answered. But as a product, just the first issue, so good, setting everything up, really building a suspenseful story. And the second issue, just bringing the action and giving us all these different timelines and things that are happening, constant battle, and just amazing artwork. It's a really, really fucking good comic book. And this is the last issue, so it's going to be tough to jump on board. But I gotta believe Boom's got it set to do a trade of this in the near future, and I definitely recommend picking that up, assuming that this issue hits, which I have all the faith in the world it will, because the last 2 issues have been that good. And finally, we will end with Gatchaman number 2. This is written by Cullen Bunn with art by Chris Batista, colors by Carlos Lopez, and letters by Buddy Boudin. I'm all in on Gatchaman, people. I really enjoyed that first issue. It was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that one shot. It was a good look into the character Ken and a further dive into what he does and what these characters are doing inside the world. And while the side book about Galactor I was hit or miss on, I still enjoyed it enough where I'm going to continue reading the series. So Gatchaman as a whole, as an IP at Mad Cave, has been a success in my eyes. 3 issues in, I guess we would say. And with Gatchaman number 2 here, we've now been introduced to these characters. We know who they are. We know what the big bad is. And we can kind of expand out the universe further. We don't have to linger on this is who they are, this is what they're capable of, all those origin story tropes that we need to get past. Now we can really dive in and see what this is all about. I mean, if I could give it any compliment, it would be that this is a book that's taking place after continuity that's already exists. We didn't know Gatchaman was a cartoon back in the 70s, and one that a lot of these creators, Cullen Bunn himself, had told us that he was a big fan of, and they decided to pick up this story right after that cartoon. And I never watched a single frame of that cartoon, and yet I really enjoyed the first issue and how they did that. And it was enough that not only did I really enjoyed it, but it makes me want to go back and watch that cartoon. So that's something in the near future I'm going to do, because I just really enjoyed that issue. Assuming this doesn't just all fall off a cliff, which I don't see that happening. We got a great creative team here. We've got a great publisher behind it. So just all around, Gatchaman's been so much fun with the issues we've gotten. I really love the world that we're getting here. And I just look forward to going further and further into it and seeing what this team is, where the diversity of storytelling can happen, and how we can build upon what's been presented as our introduction to this IP. So everybody, that is everything I have for you this week. Thank you so much for watching. Remember, if you want to support me further, there is chriscomicscorner.substack.com. We do the retro reread series, do crowdfunding spotlight. We did the Game Masters Kickstarter for our spotlight this week. It was awesome. And the retro reread series, we're diving back into Rom the Space Knight, my beloved Rom the Space Knight, and comic reviews. I talked about a few of them already. We did one for Space Ghost that's coming out the day you're listening to or watching this, and also one for Gatchaman number 2 in the near future, and a few others as well. So plenty on there. And you can watch the podcast, Fortress Comic News. We talk about the weekly comic book news. We talk to comic creators on there to promote their books, all that kind of fun stuff. It's a good time. So please check out all that. Support the show further. Like, subscribe, share, comment down below. I'll see you all here next week.